I. We use this when we talked about houses, and this means there is or there are. We don't have to change it when it's plural. And we can use this to talk about what there is or isn't in your city or hometown. But first, I want to go over the vocabulary for pronunciation purposes. Let's start with la ciudad. It's going to have an S sound, ciudad. El banco. El restaurante. La panadería. If you don't recognize this one, pan is bread. So a panadería is a bakery or a place where someone makes bread. La farmacia. La estacionamiento. El museo. That's a museum. La universidad. El hotel. You'll see a couple words like hotel y hospital that are the exact same in English and Spanish. But the difference is that in Spanish, you're not going to say the H sound. So when you say either hotel or hospital, you're really starting on the O sound. The H is always silent in Spanish. The same goes for I. You're really not saying with a breathy sound. You're saying I. You're starting on the A. Then we have el café. Café you might recognize already. Café can be brown, the color. It can be a café, like a cafe in this sense. Or it's the word for coffee. El estadio. La oficina del doctor. La gasolinera. El cajero. El cajero is an ATM, and this, for me, is one of the things that is often left out of books or chapters around the city, but it's probably one of the number one things that people ask for when they travel to a Spanish-speaking country. So this one is worth remembering, in my opinion. La escuela, school. La playa. El parque. El hospital. Like I said, we're going to start on the O. El centro comercial. That's a commercial center. So that could be either a mall, like in the picture, or it could refer to a shopping center too. La estación de autobuses. And that's a bus station. So you might have some of these things. You might not have some other things depending on where you live, and that's okay. We can use these even in a negative way. We can say there isn't to still use the grammar and to still describe our cities. Below I have some examples. Hay una panadería, and you can look on the map. Oh, yes, there's one right here. So I would say sí, hay una panadería. And I would say una because I know on this map there's only one. Or if there aren't any, I could say no hay una panadería. We're not going to be asking the questions when you write your description. You're just going to be using the answers to form affirmative or negative sentences. But I wanted to point out that there are some different ways to quantify. So far we have seen un or una. We've seen unos or unas, even if we haven't used them much. I want to add muchos and muchas. So all cities are different, which is one of the fun things about this topic. You know, some cities have a lot of restaurants, and some cities might have a lot of universities, and some might have a lot of stadiums. So I do want to take advantage, and if you can use muchos or muchas, I would like for you to try to do that. And remember, you also can always use the number. If you know exactly how many stadiums or how many parks, depending on how big your city is, of course, or how many malls, you can use the exact number to describe it. Now I'm going to give you a description of my city as an example. So I live in Veracruz. So I'll put my title here, Veracruz, Mexico. And it's a medium-sized city. I should mention that it's not a big city like Philadelphia, where I'm from. But I think that's easier because I know some of these things. I wouldn't be able to count the amount of hospitals or parks in Philadelphia. So just going through my list, I would say hay muchos bancos, restaurantes, y hoteles. In Veracruz. Here I'm using an ES because hotel ends in a consonant, so to make it plural, I'm adding an ES instead of just an S when it ends in a vowel. So that's just my opening. In Veracruz, hay muchos bancos, restaurantes y hoteles. There are many banks, restaurants, and hotels. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more. So Veracruz is a beach town, so that's going to really influence a lot of the things that I say. It's not a business city. It doesn't have a financial district, if that makes any sense. So I would say I'm going to use unos because there are some, but I wouldn't say many. Hay unos hospitales. Again, using that ES. Y farmacias. And there's going to be pharmacies because there's hospitals. Hay unas, make sure I'm using unas because this is going to be a feminine word, playas. Hay unas playas. So I've used many, I've used some. Now I'm going to go to things that I could actually count. Hay 4 universidades. Hay una estación de autobuses. Museums, there's not a lot, to be honest. Hay 2 museos. And actually, there's only one mall. Hay un centro comercial. As you can see, I'm starting from what there's the most of, and I'm kind of working my way to less and less and less. Because now I'm going to tell you what there isn't any of, which is a lot harder than you would think. There is one stadium. I could say no hay There aren't parks in the way that we think of parks in the United States. But definitely no hay parques. O cafes. I'm going to make this a little bit more specific. En mi vecindario. Two things I added to this sentence that you can use. I used o, which means or. When you're saying something negative, instead of being inclusive and saying and, there are parks and restaurants, I'm going to say there aren't any parks or restaurants because I'm saying a negative sentence. And I don't know the whole entire city, so I know in my neighborhood, vecindario, that there are definitely no parks or cafes, but I don't feel comfortable saying there are none in the entire city. I'm sure eventually there's going to be a park or a coffee shop. So you're welcome to use vecindario to describe only your neighborhood if that's what you know really well. It's going to just depend on what you know and what you feel comfortable describing. Like I said, I probably could give you a description of Philadelphia, but it's such a big city that I would probably end up saying there's a lot of everything and it wouldn't be very interesting. So I think it's more interesting the more specific you can get, personally. But that's going to be it for this video. I look forward to seeing what everybody comes up with.